please convene the Committee on Educational Policy?
Thank you, Chair Fong. Will the Committee on Educational Policy please come to order? It is now time for the committee to consider today's consent agenda, approval of the minutes from the May 2022 meeting. Is there any objection to the approval of the minutes? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. There are 3 items on today's discussion agenda. Item 2 of the discussion agenda is an action item seeking committee approval of the recommended amendments to Title V regarding blended academic programs. This item will be presented by Dr. Sylvia A. Alva, Executive Vice Chancellor, Academic and Student Affairs, along with Dr. Allison Rinn, Associate Vice Chancellor, Academic Programs, Innovations, and Faculty Development. Take it away, Dr. Alva.
Thank you, Trustee Arambula. The California State University and its 23 campuses remain focused on ensuring that students from all backgrounds achieve their academic goals and gain a sense of agency, purpose, and fulfillment in reaching their personal and career goals. In line with this vision, at our last meeting, we presented for you a proposed Title V change championed by our CSU graduate deans and faculty. Today, we present this Title V change as an action item for your approval. Developed with the support of our provosts, campus presidents, academic senate, and CSSA, this Title V change would give our campuses the framework and flexibility to expand blended academic programs, which allows students to seamlessly achieve a bachelor's degree and a master's degree program in an accelerated framework. These programs are already popular at a number of other public comprehensive and research universities, as they offer numerous benefits to our students. And we believe these programs would help to create a culture and expectation on our campuses that all students have the opportunity to pursue advanced degrees. As we noted in May, this Title V change would simply provide campuses the option to provide these accelerated programs and our students the option of choosing these pathways. For complete details on implementation and next steps, I'm pleased to introduce Dr. Allison Rinn, the Associate Vice Chancellor for Academic Programs, Innovation, and Faculty Development. Allison.
Thank you, Dr. Alva. Today we present for board approval a proposed amendment to Title V, Section 40510. This proposed change would allow up to 12 semester units to be double counted for both the bachelor's degree and the master's degree. The revised total number of units for a blended academic program would be 138. The set of criteria, including the stipulation that undergraduate courses cannot replace graduate courses, is presented on screen and in your written agenda item. As Dr. Alva touched on in her opening remarks, there are a number of benefits associated with blended academic programs. The approval of this Title V change will encourage more campuses to pursue this option and offer additional streamlined pathways to a graduate degree. For CSU students, the reduction in required units would result in savings both in tuition and time in pursuing a graduate degree, up to a full semester. We also believe this added flexibility to blended degree programs will contribute to greater diversity in graduate programs, resulting in more access for students to in-demand disciplines and industries that require a master's degree. There is the potential of encouraging greater diversity for students who may go on to pursue their professional doctorate degree as well. Blended academic programs are also another opportunity to increase and enhance our state's ability to compete globally. For the benefit of trustees who have not been involved in a Title V change before, I'd like to take a moment to outline how this revision becomes CSU policy and then is implemented across the campuses. Title V refers to the section of the California Code of Regulations where rules regarding the operation of the CSU are located. These rules describe how an agency governs itself generally, rather than addressing specific situations. Title V, Education, Division 5, is where you will find regulations related to the Board of Trustees of the CSU. At times, the CSU is required to make changes to Title V as a result of state legislation. An example of this is the Ethnic Studies course requirement that originated from Assembly Bill 1460, and which is now Education Code Section 89032. In this case, we are making an update to existing language found in Title V related to the master's degree based upon a proposal from the CSU's academic community. As trustees, you are asked to vote on the proposed Title V change. Should the action pass, the Chancellor's Office, in collaboration with campus graduate deans and other stakeholders, would update the current blended degrees program academic policy. This update would provide guidelines for the implementation of the Title V change. Such a policy touches on areas related to the application process and financial aid, as well as safeguards for students who may choose not to pursue their master's degree once enrolled in a blended program. The revised academic policy would then be shared with campuses, at which point faculty and campus leaders would follow the shared governance process already established in creating or updating academic programs. When we presented this request as an information item at the May board meeting, many of you had excellent questions regarding the blended academic programs beyond the Title V change. One question asked how we are to maintain the quality of blended programs should units be double counted. As is the tradition of shared governance at the CSU, faculty are empowered to steward academic programs on their respective campuses. With any new academic program or changes to an existing degree program, CSU faculty would consult with their campus peers and follow the established academic master plan process. We also want to encourage campuses to consider targeted outreach to raise awareness of this option for students, addressing another question posed in the previous board meeting. As new ideas and questions are raised, we look forward to continuing this conversation with faculty and student leaders, graduate deans, and other key stakeholders. Trustee Arambula, this concludes our presentation. At this time, Dr. Alva and I invite your comments and questions.
Thank you, Dr. Wren. Thank you, Dr. Alva, for your presentation. Because this item involves amending a provision of Title V of the California Code of Regulations, these proceedings are deemed to be a public hearing under the provisions of the California Education Code. During the 45-day notice period for this action item, any written comments received have been provided to trustees and will be incorporated into the official record. All comments from public speakers related to this Title V item that were received during the public comment period at the beginning of this board meeting are incorporated here and will be part of the official record. The public hearing is now closed. The recommended amendment to Title V regarding blended academic programs is an action item before the Committee on Educational Policy. Only committee members may vote at this time. Before we proceed to any questions and/or discussion, may I ask for a preliminary motion to approve these changes?
So moved.
Sorry. We have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. I have a motion and a second to approve the amendment. At this time, are there any questions or discussion from the board? Trustee Beguri.
Just a question about how did you arrive at 12 units? Why not 15 or 18 or more?
As we reviewed what was done in other states, and as our graduate deans talked to faculty, that was the number that they determined was the most appropriate.
Good guess then, huh? Okay. I just think this, for the presence, I just think this is a really important recommendation. The more we can make our degree programs efficient and attractive to the students, I think it's great. And we're working, President Delatorre and I are working on one with University of San Diego, which would combine undergraduate public administration, the MPA, and a JD program, and probably save a year in that combination. And I just think the more we can do that and collaborate, do it internally, but also collaborate with the universities in our areas, the more attractive it will be for students. And we really have to figure out a way in terms of improving enrollment to make our curriculum more attractive and more efficient.
Trustee Rodriguez?
Thank you so much. I agree on this issue of access. This is what this is about. It's about access. And I would imagine, but I don't want to make an assumption that they went to 12 units because it equals a full-time semester is 12 units. But I do want to say thank you for addressing the issue of communication and marketing to the community. That is a question that I had, especially something like this could really be a draw to our students that need something like this in order to be able to attain their higher education. So I'm grateful for the work that was put into this on all levels, and really appreciative that we're going to be able to offer this.
There's been a motion and a second for approval of this amendment. Hearing no further comments or questions, we will now vote on the item. As a reminder, only members of the Committee on Educational Policy may vote at this time. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The recommended amendment to Title V regarding blended academic programs is approved. We're now moving on to item 3 of the discussion agenda. This is an information item regarding Graduation Initiative 2025. The item will be presented by Dr. Sylvia Alva and Dr. Darlene Dacklin, Director of Academic and Student Affairs for Business Systems. Take it away.
Thank you, Trustee Arambula. While final numbers won't be tabulated until this fall, we have every indication that the California State University and its 23 campuses celebrated our largest graduating class to date this past May, with nearly 114,000 diverse, talented, and driven students earning a bachelor's degree, despite the unprecedented challenges of the past 2 years. These esteemed Cal State graduates have now joined the ranks of the CSU's 4 million proud alumni around the globe, a staggering number that surpasses the population of 23 states. Provided this preliminary count holds, this record number of degrees represents nearly 26,000 additional graduates as compared to 2014-15, the year before CSU's flagship effort, GI 2025, was launched. This impact should not be attributed to luck or to happenstance. It will be because of the talent and perseverance of our students, the extraordinary efforts of faculty and staff, and the collective statewide focus on student success driven by the Graduation Initiative 2025. In September 2016, our Chancellor's Office team presented to the board a set of ambitious goals for improving retention and graduation rates and closing equity gaps between underserved students and their peers across the system. At the time, the 4-year graduation rate for first-time students at the CSU was hovering at about 20%, and our 6-year rates were just under 60%. Since GI 2025 was launched, with a shared belief in the transformative power of education, our 23 campuses have risen to the challenge, investing resources, passion, and creativity to support our students all the way to the commencement stage. Despite unprecedented challenges, graduation rates have been at all-time highs for CSU students from all backgrounds. As of 2021, our 4-year graduation rates for first-time students is now 33%, and our 6-year rates are now 63%, a rate that continues to exceed the national average for public four-year universities. Yet we know that our work is not done. And for those of you who attended last month's inaugural Juneteenth symposium, it is clear that the CSU has a commitment to keep. This past year, we presented to you a set of 5 priorities informed by the Graduation Initiative 2025 Advisory Committee for redoubling our efforts to close equity gaps. From these 5 priorities, today's presentation will focus on early, impressive results from our system-wide re-enrollment campaign to eliminate barriers and welcome underserved students back to our universities to complete their degrees. To provide further details, I'd like to introduce Dr. Darlene Dacklin, Academic Affairs Business Systems Director. Darlene.
Thank you, Dr. Alva. Today, I am pleased to represent colleagues from the Chancellor's Office and from our campuses who have worked tirelessly over the last 6 months to advance the 5 equity priorities listed on the screen. As Dr. Alva shared, these priorities were chosen expressly to help eliminate the inequity between historically underserved students and their peers, an inequity that has been exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic. It is estimated that of the 2.6 million students who started college in fall 2019 nationwide, 26%, or an estimated 679,000, did not return the following year. At the CSU, of the nearly 65,000 first-year students who started in fall 2019, 15%, or a little more than 9,400 students, did not return in fall 2020. And while that number is below the national average, any loss of a student represents a personal loss for that student and their family, as well as to the CSU community and to the future workforce of California. For the purpose of today's presentation, I will be providing highlights of efforts related to Equity Priority 1, re-engaging and re-enrolling underserved students. As one of the most urgent of the priorities, the goal of this task force was to identify what steps could be taken to identify, re-engage, re-enroll, and support students who did not return to the CSU during the pandemic. Our approach was threefold. We would gain information and address strategies for the short-term timeframe of spring 2022. We would apply those learnings to develop re-enrollment plans for summer and fall 2022, and we would capture data-informed insights for longer-term strategies. These long-term strategies include addressing needed policy and structural changes, as well as pivots in culture and mindsets, including identifying institutional barriers that may have contributed to student disenrollment. Returning to school is a daunting task for students, and returning after the challenges of the pandemic make this even more so. Our approach kept at the forefront that strategies need to welcome back students, minimize confusion, and provide a sense of belonging at the CSU. After meeting regularly with our campus partners, common themes began to emerge regarding campus needs. These items range from the strategic, such as how to create a space for campuses to exchange ideas and approaches related to student re-engagement and re-enrollment, to the more tactical and practical. Those requests included clarifying system-wide policies, such as tuition payment plans, creating a more efficient way for returning students to apply, and providing more consistent and accurate information to students. Given the breadth and depth of these important campus conversations, our task force set out to curate campus ideas into a document we call Promising Practices. Many of us are familiar with the term best practices. We believe Promising Practices captures the potential of emerging campus strategies. We are optimistic that many of these promising practices will develop into best practices as more information on student re-enrollment becomes available. What's more, we anticipate that a number of these practices will be embraced by campus cultures of welcoming back all students. As seen on the screen, our promising practices for re-engagement and re-enrollment is composed of 7 categories. In the interest of time, I will not review all 7 categories, though additional details of each practice are provided in your written agenda item. I'd like to briefly touch on 3 promising practices. The first is change management. In many cases, for campuses to support innovative changes in re-engagement and re-enrollment practices, it required organizational changes within the campus. Such changes could range from how departments collaborated with each other, such as financial services, student support services, and student affairs, to revisions in policy and administrative processes. While some campuses also reimagined their terminology to position student communications in a more positive light. At CSU San Marcos, change management efforts resulted in reimagining student registration holds. Oftentimes, students may be prevented from registering for classes due to issues with payment, health records, or academics. And many times, students do not understand the next steps to lift these holds so they can continue on with their studies. As part of their re-engagement efforts, San Marcos published a website listing registration holds along with descriptions and what can be done to remove them. What's more, the campus took a further step by requiring a plan be in place that states the purpose of the hold and what outreach will be made to the student before automatically preventing a student from registering. The second area I'd like to touch on is student outreach. Many campuses have implemented robust student outreach to re-engage with students who had left the 2019 and 2020 cohorts. Efforts ranged from phone banking strategies, enlisting faculty, staff, and administrators as part of communication campaigns, and leveraging relationships with community colleges. Many campuses use their student success management systems to assist in identifying categories of students and barriers that students may be facing in order to personalize messaging for greater impact. At CSU Bakersfield, the campus utilized peer-to-peer calling campaigns. Students hearing from students provided a relatable and welcoming tone. From a campaign specifically calling over 200 students about re-enrollment, 76% of those contacted expressed interest in returning to either the spring 2022 or fall 2022 terms. Additionally, Bakersfield implemented social media campaigns on Twitter and Instagram to engage students and meet them where they are. During the month of June 2022, they received 15,000 views across both platforms. These are promising re-engagement and re-enrollment results from which the campus can build on. It is important to note that the Equity Priority Task Force on Re-engagement and Re-enrollment was not simply focused on the initial success of students returning to campus. Our colleagues also anticipated what types of support services would be needed to ensure returning students' continued success, which is the third area I'd like to highlight. These ideas have included providing academic resilience courses to help returning students adjust back to an academic environment, and some campuses are exploring enrolling returning students into mentoring programs that offer essential peer support and help track their progress. With the pandemic, many campuses provided advising services via Zoom, which was widely successful and appreciated by students. Campuses have continued these online services, as well as expanded in-person advisement hours to include evening and weekend hours, a valued flexibility for students who are employed part-time or may have additional family obligations. At the system level, we were successful in initiating change as well. We've recently released to campuses an application form just for returning students. Prior to the availability of this short welcome back form, students would either need to reapply through the Cal State Apply website or complete a separate form that campuses would input manually into their student record. In collaboration with campus content experts and the Chancellor's Office IT department, the team developed an easy-to-use, one-page form. Now the students who reach out to the campus interested in returning to the CSU can complete their welcome back form in a matter of minutes, as opposed to completing the full application process. The form also allows campuses to electronically upload data into the student information system, eliminating the need for manual data entry. Today, I have highlighted just a few of the many ways we are working to ensure that students are welcomed back to complete and earn their CSU degree. I invite you to review the written agenda item for more details, as well as visit our new Equity Priorities website on calstate.edu.
Thank you, Darlene. We look forward to hearing more about the progress made by your team and campus colleagues who are leading this essential effort. Until then, I want to encourage everyone who's present or watching today to save the date for the next Graduation Initiative 2025 virtual convening, set for Friday, October 28th. This popular annual event is an opportunity to share the latest system-wide student success data, celebrate progress, and join hands in our efforts and next steps. Trustee Arambula, we welcome questions and comments from the board.
Thank you, Dr. Alva and Dr. Declan, for your report. I have October 28th on my calendar now. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Trustee Simon.
Thank you so much, Trustee. I really love this report, and I'm extremely inspired by what we're working on here. I'm curious, and there's no way I'm sure that you know this offhand, but as you were presenting, I was thinking about, and it's campus by campus. I don't know if we have the system-wide data, but with holds, have we seen attrition and folks just throwing their hands up in the air because the process seems so arduous? I mean, this is clearly why we're doing it, but have we experienced? Is there material data that shows that these issues are not only boundaries for registration, but that folks just give up because it seems too big, whether it's their administrative holds or their financial holds? Can you talk a little bit more about that? And I hope you understand my question.
Let me take a stab at it, and then Darlene, who has been a real leader with the campuses on this issue, can certainly elaborate. I think what this effort has underscored for us is how important it is to think deeply about what is the purpose of placing a registration hold on a student's record. Because unless the student can clear that hole, and as we saw in the example of San Marcos, where we ourselves have created a clear path for them in terms of how to clear that holes do become a very significant obstacle and barriers to student success, particularly for first-generation students who don't have the navigation skills, the experience in how to work through some of our complex bureaucracies. So I do think the issue of holes and what campuses and systems can do to ensure that holes don't become a barrier. But as we saw even at San Marcos, thinking about if you're going to place a hole, what efforts are you going to place to ensure that students are aware of why that hold is on their record and how to help them clear that goal, clear that registration hold.
That does answer my question. There are initiatives in a number of cities, and I'm sure Trustee Clark, we've been talking about ways in which the students can really move through the system. I would imagine that there's just probably there's so many boundaries that students have to face, and particularly in San Francisco and other cities, there have been initiatives where not related to education but fines and fees, folks, and even child support, folks weren't participating in the above ground economy because they were very, very much deterred by just these administrative hurdles, not knowing who to talk to, feeling really scared of talking to folks to move through a process. So I just, I'm extremely excited to see that campus by campus we're removing barriers, especially for students who are on the edge anyways. You get a hold, school starting, you don't know who to talk to, or you can't get an appointment. I've been there myself as a young student. So thank you so much for this work.
I'm going to go to Chair Fong and Trustee Rodriguez and Lopez. I've got you next.
Thank you very much. And Dr. Silva, thank you so much for this work. And in particular to Darlene, Jeff Gold, for your work on GI 2025. I was really honored to be on the advisory committee, and the work that was created, the innovation by all the people that served on the committee was remarkable, and it's shown in the strategies and processes that had been developed. I was just wondering when we would be able to actually see the actual data on the outcome of these practices and strategies. I know that you're waiting for the fall enrollment numbers, but I was wondering about the data collection of this so that we can really get those precise numbers to see what is working better or not as well as some of the other strategies.
So thank you for that question, Trustee Fong. I will mention that the fall is exactly when we expect to see that data, and we'd be happy to report it to you. Anecdotally, and it goes back to Trustee Simons, we're getting some pretty strong indications, not just of the practices, but of the culture shifting. And for that, I'd like to turn it over to President Coley and to President Morales for a minute to just give a brief description related to fee and tuition forgiveness and how that has helped re-enroll students.
Thank you. In October 2021, Cal Poly Pomona noted that the re-enrollment numbers for spring 2022 were lower than expected, with nearly 7,000 eligible students not yet enrolled, and 61% of these unenrolled students were URMs. More importantly, 73% of the students who had not enrolled for spring were from the three most recent cohorts of students, all of whom were admitted during or shortly before the COVID-19 pandemic. And to ensure that these students were supported, we developed and implemented a coordinated re-enrollment strategy. These strategies include an analysis of students' backgrounds, characteristics, an in-depth examination of institutional barriers to student enrollment, and a multi-pronged approach to providing outreach and support. There is no doubt that financial hardship plays a major factor for many students stepping away from their academic studies. And so as part of the re-enrollment efforts, Cal Poly Pomona identified over 1,300 students with financial holes. We temporarily lifted those holes to allow students to register. Cal Poly Pomona also committed over $2.5 million in HERF funds to discharge debt for 1,500 returning students. Outreach efforts included the use of university's artificial intelligence chat box, BillyChat, phone campaigns, virtual and in-person registration events, special registration windows, and leveraging key campus partnerships that facilitated in-person registration, special registration windows, and as a result of the special registration window, 600 additional students registered for classes. The combination of in-person and virtual interventions, as well as evening and weekend hours, were offered in response to the feedback from student surveys suggesting that students valued varying modalities. Moving forward, Cal Poly Pomona will continue to provide student services virtually and outside of business hours. As a result of our re-enrollment efforts, nearly 3,600 students were able to re-enroll and register for spring 2022, and of those, 60% of those were URMs.
Like my colleague Soraya at Cal Poly Pomona, we also took a very aggressive review of students, and we do this pretty regularly, looking at students who are in debt to the university. In fall of 2021, we launched this re-enrollment campaign through a series of emails, postcards, social media. We embraced and engaged ASI to help us. They've been great partners in this effort. We initially reached out to approximately 2,500 students who were in good academic standing but not enrolled for the spring 22 semester. Many of these students were, in fact, 72% were Hispanic. 85% of these students were either Pell, URM, or first-generation students. Those are the students, as you know, that we target to close equity gaps. The re-enrollment campaign, using her funds, offered a tuition assistance in the form of paying off past due balances and also paying for summer tuition. We actually, this summer, invested over $3 million just to enroll students in our summer session, targeting students that just needed that summer to graduate, to get to the finish line. And so I think through advising, through academic advising, through coaching, these students were able to be touched. And I just want to share with you some of the comments that students made. I'm so happy, quote, "I am so happy someone cares. And I was so ashamed. I thought CSUSB didn't want me back until now. I was so lost. I just gave up." And so, you know, this is all about validation and affirmation. And I often tell our donors that it's not about the check. It's not about the money. It's about the students saying, gee, you care enough about me to give me a scholarship. That is so powerful. So yes, and I know that I'm speaking for all my presidential colleagues. All of us really worked very hard to try to re-enroll students. Thank you for the opportunity to share this with you.
So I just really appreciate that we had the opportunity to hear from two of our presidents. I know that across our 23 spectacular universities, that all of them have stories 1,000-fold to that. So thank you so much for the work that you're all doing.
Trustee Rodriguez?
Yes, thank you so much, and thank you so much from the report from the presidents to hear about the work that you're doing. This is just so much aligned with really battling our issue of equity gaps, and I thank you all for the work. I feel like it's just parallel to even our basic needs assessment that was done in 2019, and especially on the well-being component, the debt relief and incentives. I would love to know, out of that 2019 report, all the things that we're doing now. I can imagine that those recommendations, because there were several recommendations that I'm trying to check the box to see which ones are connected to it. But I would like to know an update on that assessment to see, how connected those recommendations are. And just seeing the report, I think we are very much getting there, if not almost all there. But it would be neat to see, how we are addressing those recommendations that we gave in 2019. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Alva, everybody. I think this is terrific. I think I'm thinking it's one of the other side benefits of the pandemic, isn't it? We should have been doing this all along, but we don't get to it until we had a crisis. So another one of those lesson learned here, and I think it's terrific, and I think the results will definitely show that. This is a little bit off topic, but I just want to speak about it. I think you probably saw this article in Cal Matters. I woke up this morning to this headline: "Does Cal State hide black graduation rates?" And I get the daily thing, and it's really referring to an article by a very, very good, I think, an enterprising reporter who actually found the data, because the data is in our website. It's just not linked to the big graduation initiative website. Our initiative, our website talks about the progress and the equity gaps of underrepresented minority students. And his point is, if you disaggregate it and look at the different groups, African Americans or Native Americans, or others, you can see differences in gaps. We may be making progress, but there's really differences in groups. And I only bring this up because we know you have, I'm familiar with your data system, and I know you have the data. Can you just put a link or something to the web page very simply to say, if you want, he found it, but anybody else who picks it up and wants to have that disaggregated data, just put a link to this, to your graduation and success dashboards, at least for now. I'm sure there's other fancier ways of doing it, but it just was so striking to me. The other point why it was striking to me, not just because it was, what are they doing here, is it's a really valid point that smaller groups, which African Americans are, Native Americans, and other smaller groups get forgotten, and it's as important that we keep them front and center somehow as we think about these things, that, because there are particular groups that really are falling further behind, and that's the point of the article, and we should just keep that in mind and think about what else we need to do for those groups. So, not to take away from all of the great work that you're doing, it's just that it was shocking this morning, particularly this morning, frankly, to see this. Thank you.
Thank you. If I may, I'd like to comment a little bit on this important issue. I think in many ways the URM, non-URM is a concept that's part of our legacy, but I think especially with a focus on equity, we need to look at the differential performance and look more intentionally at the patterns of achievement and addressing where students, based not just on racial and ethnic background, but as was shared earlier, Pell, first generation, start to unpack the data to get a more nuanced, differentiated understanding of who our students are, and to jump into action and to make thoughtful strategies and interventions to address those differential patterns. One of the things that is very clear to me is that we need to continue to not just report URM, non-URM, because that's our sort of legacy metric. It's in fact, it's even in our governor's compact, right? So we're being held to that progress. But in addition to that, really starting to surface and to be more intentional in what we're doing to address and eliminate systemic, particularly racial and ethnic inequities that are getting in the way of our students' success. And I think what we saw today and the examples that were shared are some very deliberative, purposeful efforts to look at the data in a more nuanced way. And that has to be true not just on the campuses, but I think also system-wide, thinking about how to get uncomfortable in looking at the data and being intentional about then moving insights that data provide to action steps. So thank you for bringing this article to our collective attention, and I want you and other members of the board to know that this is a strong commitment that we have to start to together unpack the data, and I'm really excited to share the next example of what that starts to look like in terms of campus leadership and team engagement.
Could I?
Yes.
I just wanted to pick up on that. I would say that I could speak for my colleagues, the presidents, that we do deconstruct the URM data because the intervention has to fit with the needs of the particular groups of students. I think when the data are rolled up by the system level, it is not as easily differentiated, but for all of us, we do need to have, and we do have that kind of deconstruction of data, because that is critical, and it helps to identify the strategies, because not all strategies work with all students.
not only do we disaggregate the data by race, but we do it by high school and gender. I mean, we look at every single high school in the Inland Empire, given the fact that 85% of our students at Cal State San Bernardino come from Riverside or San Bernardino. And then we have conversations with superintendents and say, your students are not doing as well in math. What can we do to help you? And Cal State San Bernardino has worked very, very hard with the K-12 community, both throughout Riverside, including the Coachella Valley. And so it's not just disaggregating the data by race, but we provide that data to our community colleges and we feeders, and we provide that data to each of the school districts, particularly our larger feeder schools.
Chancellor.
I'd like to make a comment about the nature of the effort to work on student disenrollment and getting them back into our universities. And I want to offer it to the trustees as well as the presidents and others as an example of a positive working relationship in partnership between the Chancellor's office and the campuses. One of the fundamental challenges is, what is the value of a system? What does a system do? What do the universities in that system do? And where are the responsibilities of the action, the goals, the activities? So while I am certain that this effort to focus on student re-engagement was not universally loved and perfect, it is an example of how a system should operate in collaboration and partnership with the universities that are part of it. There was a set of goals. There was some leadership and effort at the system level. There was some data. There was some direction setting. But the implementation of the changes, the activities tailored to the culture and processes and procedures and obstacles, were at the university level. So I applaud the effort, but I couldn't resist the teaching moment here, or the illustrative character of this with respect to what systems should do and what university presidents and campuses should do.
You stole the question I was about to ask right out of my mouth. I'm deeply thankful for all of the work on Graduation Initiative 2025, to our team at the Chancellor's office, to the presidents. In particular, this work around Priority 1, this equity goal, feels so important for young people who have stepped out of our system to help them find their way back in, earn a degree, and be on the pathway so they don't have some college debt with no degree to show. Feels so important. I stand at the ready as a trustee to resist the urge to say there's one solution and all 23 schools should have one solution. Yet at the same time, I hope that we can learn some of the lessons you all are learning through the amazing work happening on your campuses, and we can spread that work as quickly as possible, knowing that each one of these students is a student who, the longer they're gone, the less likely we are to pull them back in. So I'm deeply appreciative. I will resist that urge as a trustee. If you see me not doing that, I ask you to please hold me to it. Yet the urgency that I feel, that I know all of us feel, is real in turning these promising practices truly into a more common set of experiences that all students at every one of our campuses experience. I didn't see any other questions or comments on item 3, but I wanted to make sure I didn't miss any. Okay, so we're going to move to item 4 of the discussion agenda. This is, again, an information item regarding the Student Success Analytics Certificate Program. This item is going to be presented by Dr. Sylvia Alva, Dr. Nayla Hempel-Lamer, the founding director of the Certificate Program in Student Success Analytics, and Dr. Cynthia Alvarez, the assistant director of Student Success.
Thank you, Trustee Arambula. As we continue to share updates on our Graduation Initiative 2025 progress to increase graduation rates and eliminate equity gaps, it's important to highlight the longstanding importance of data in informing our efforts. Today, Dr. Cynthia Alvarez and Nayla Hempel-Lamer will share details on the Certificate Program in Student Success Analytics, a faculty-grown initiative in which participants become fluent in the use of CSU's Student Success Dashboard. This essential tool has equipped campus leaders, faculty, and practitioners with access to the raw numbers they need to drive progress. Participants have learned to target support for the students who need it the most, to identify and demolish administrative barriers, to redesign courses that have served as stumbling blocks, and to pinpoint the programs, services, and tools that are most effective in advancing student success. It's my pleasure to turn the presentation now over to Dr. Hempel-Lamer to begin. Nayla.
Thank you, Dr. Alva. I'm Dr. Nayla Hempel-Lamer, German professor at Cal State Long Beach and the founding director of the Certificate Program in Student Success Analytics. And I co-lead this program with my colleague, Dr. Cynthia Alvarez.
Hi, I'm Dr. Cynthia Alvarez, Assistant Director for Student Success. It's great to be here.
The certificate program is rooted in one of the 6 pillars of the Graduation Initiative 2025, data-informed decision-making. We all know that a key step to having meaningful, long-lasting impact on student success is to support our actions with evidence. What is working well for our students on their road to graduation, and what needs to be improved to ensure equal education outcomes for all. Orienting our participants to the power of the Student Success Dashboard allows us to create broad ownership of the data and to inspire equity-minded action throughout the campus. For the past 5 years, the Analytics Certificate Program has helped to forge meaningful cross-campus collaboration. The outcome has been leveraging data to identify ways to better serve students and eliminate equity gaps. It has brought together administrators, faculty, and staff from various departments and programs and provided a space to collaborate as they explored their campus data to identify barriers to student success. The program was launched as a small pilot program with California State University East Bay and San Francisco State University, with 45 participants earning certificates as the first cohort in 2018. The program then grew to a nationwide program with 500 participants in the spring 2022 cohort. The impact of the program has extended far beyond the CSU, as reflected in the graphic on the screen. The most recent class included Colorado State University, University of Arizona, UC San Diego, and UC Santa Cruz, among a number of others. All 23 campuses all 23 CSU campuses have sent a team to the Analytics Certificate Learning Community, with many campuses sending teams consistently every year. The majority of participants this spring, 350 to be exact, were employees of the CSU. To view a listing of participants, please visit our website at calstate.edu/analytics certificate. While the program has grown, participants continue to foster connections in a collaborative environment designed to break down silos. We often hear from our teams that the focused data conversations with their campus colleagues were the most valuable aspect of their experience. This program brings awareness, educates, and catapults individuals to tackle equity issues in a data-informed way. While some participants may feel uncomfortable using data before they begin this program, our curriculum empowers them to leverage it in order to diagnose what is working well and what can be improved. What's more, faculty are also discovering student success as an area of research and have pursued publications based on their work in the program.
It is not always easy to connect with colleagues to deeply discuss and strategize on how to address the student success and equity issues that we see. Even less so is the opportunity to discuss the related data. This program creates space and offers a structure that allows cross-campus fertilization and the breaking down of silos by putting several stakeholder groups in the same room at the same time. We see faculty, academic resource and support staff, advisors, student affairs professionals, and this year, community college colleagues. They all come to the program and be collectively empowered to turn their data into action. Cohorts like this one shown on the screen, you'll see Sacramento State, return to their campus energized and ready to lead change. I'd like to share just a few examples of the impact the certificate program has had on the CSU and beyond. At the campus level, Professors Adam Kahn and Neelan Barnes from Cal State Long Beach are wonderful examples of faculty who were so empowered by the analytics certificate experience that they revisited their own classroom pedagogy and curriculum through an equity lens. Pairing the data they gathered during the certificate program with a cultural curriculum audit course they attended at Long Beach City College, Dr. Kahn and Dr. Barnes developed a student success dashboard workshop in which they taught their fellow faculty to examine their course section data and to equitize their course syllabi. When the then chair of the Student Success Committee of the Council of Library Deans, Dr. Jennifer Fabi at CSU San Marcos, learned about the certificate program, she inquired about the possibility of creating a system-wide team. We led a pilot, and the results were both inspirational and impactful. The system-wide team was able to demonstrate the positive effect of low and zero-cost textbooks on course passing rates. Participating in the program also aligned well with the CSU's Affordable Learning Solutions project and helped the committee to use data for program assessment and resource allocation purposes. Part of our spring cohort focused on transfer success issues. Not only did they collaborate across campus, but they invited their community college partners to the table as well. In a first ever intersegmental collaboration, CSU Channel Islands and Oxnard College developed a project focused on the leaks in the pathways for students who began their academic journey at Oxnard College and are enrolled at CSU Channel Islands. This partnership will look to make data-driven and student-centered decisions by improving cross-institutional resources and data sharing. Making data accessible is at the heart of the Analytics Certificate program, as historically, data has been used predominantly by higher-level administrators or institutional researchers. For the rest of the campus community, including advisors, faculty, and student affairs professionals, data is often difficult to interpret. The Student Success Dashboard is accessible to all CSU employees, and the certificate program provides the tools and the opportunity to apply this knowledge to identify and break through barriers to student success. Everyone can be an agent for change in eliminating equity gaps. So we thank you for this opportunity to raise awareness of this professional development resource.
Thank you so much, Nayla and Cynthia, for your inspiring report. The certificate program in Student Success Analytics represents our ongoing effort to help each one of our 56,000 faculty and staff feel empowered, equipped, and effective not only in transforming the lives of our students individually, but in contributing to our graduation initiative and increasing the graduation goals and closing rates on their campuses. It has also demonstrated the CSU's leadership as the largest, most diverse, and most consequential university in the nation in employing data to drive real change. The next cohort begins in August, and I encourage all interested faculty and staff to watch for registration dates. We'd be happy to answer any questions you may have, but first, I'd like to invite a few personal words from a proud certificate program alum whose team is using data to take campus student success measures to new heights. CSU Channel Island President Richard Yao, would you please share your story?
Thank you, Dr. Alva. I've had the opportunity to witness firsthand the benefits and impact of the Student Success Analytics Certificate Program for us here at CSU Channel Islands. And this was first when I served as the lead for our Channel Islands team back in 2020, and now, of course, as president. And as president, my main focus is always to ensure that all aspects of the university are in full alignment with our academic mission. And this involves ensuring that our work across all divisions and programs are grounded in theory, research, data, and best practices. In addition, every division and program need to be focused on their role and impact on student success, closing equity gaps, and our GI 2025 goals. And the Student Success Analytics Certificate Program really is a beautiful illustration of this focus because it engages campus teams whose members represent all levels and all divisions in utilizing data to inform broad, campus-wide interventions to improve student success. And here at Channel Islands, we've used this program to target our most pressing student success and equity needs. But at the same time, we've utilized this work to address our long-term strategic planning, which is especially relevant as we enter our 20th year. For example, one of the main challenges we continue to face is managing our fiduciary responsibilities as an institution of higher education while concurrently reducing financial barriers for our students. And directly related to this task is our disenrollment policy for non-payment of tuition. And we built a disenrollment dashboard to examine whether certain student groups were disproportionately impacted and assess the impact of this policy on persistence in relation to timely degree completion. And as a result, our campus team made several modification recommendations to our disenrollment policy to actively address these issues, which are now being implemented this upcoming academic year. And we've also used this program to focus on a more rigorous assessment of our postgraduate outcomes. While we are always talking about equity gaps in graduation rates, we are equally interested in examining equity gaps in relation to various postgraduate outcome metrics. And ultimately, we're aiming to utilize this data to better inform our student learning outcomes across disciplines in relation to these successful postgraduate outcome measures. And as was shared in today's presentation, we have leveraged the collaborative nature of the program to engage with our local community colleges as well. And our most recent team included colleagues from Oxnard College to help address ways to increase and improve the transfer pipeline. And as a result, the team developed a data sharing agreement to focus on various student success metrics and demographics for our Oxnard transfer students and identify both strengths and gaps with regards to our academic major pathways. And we're also working to develop predictive analytic models to proactively coordinate academic support services and better prepare students for the transition to Channel Islands. And these are just a handful of examples, and I'm just thrilled to see this program being highlighted today. I want to thank and recognize Jeff, Nayla, and Cynthia for their leadership and vision in expanding this program over such a very short amount of time. And I want to thank you all for the opportunity to contribute to the discussion.
Thank you, President Yao, for being an excellent data ambassador. Trustee Arambula, we welcome questions and comments from the board.
Thank you, Dr. Alva, Dr. Hempel-Lamer, Dr. Alvarez, President Yao. I'll turn it over to Trustee Steinhauser.
Thank you. And thank you, Dr. Alva and team, for this really, really important information. And so I love data. I think data drives the entire world. Data is our friend, and it's how we close equity gaps. And we know that the greatest impact to close equity gaps is what we would call in the collective teacher efficacy, and which builds upon collective expertise, which President Yao was just talking about. So when we all understand how these analytics can be used for the good, it just moves everything so much faster because we're building upon the professional expertise of our colleagues. So I'm going to throw out a suggestion. Everybody needs this. So the issue is Harvard for many, many years has marketed K-12 districts across the nation to go to their data analytics certificate program, okay? My suggestion is we as a CSU need to market to our own K-12 folks here in the state, and I'm blessed to see you're doing with our community college partners. Just imagine if all 1,100 school districts and the 800 charters had teams of people that could do what Dr. Yao was just talking about, we would be able to do something that has not been done, and is to close these equity gaps. So I just highly encourage that because there are many, many school districts out there that do not have the expertise in the K-12 world to do what you folks are doing so well. So thank you so much.
It's like you used to run a large K-12 system. I'm so impressed with the work you all have done to set this up, to expand it so quickly. You have empowered hundreds and hundreds of folks to then change the lives of thousands and thousands of students, helping them turn data into information, information into action, and action into impact. And often that word data can feel so scary, and it seems what you've done is help people make this both manageable and actionable. And it's so exciting to see. I sit right next to Chris and stand with him entirely in the idea that we can't do this enough and get this in front of enough people. It must feel, I'm sure the effects will only multiply over time. So thank you for the work on this. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, Chair Fong, that concludes the business of the Committee on Educational Policy.
Thank you very much, Trustee Arambula, and also just thank you so much for our remarkable team and to our presidents for the work that you're doing on the universities. And I just underscore what Trustee Steinhauser said. I know that you are going to continue to move forward with this, but just know it's with the enthusiasm and support of me and others on the board. So thank you so much for the work that you're doing.